And this has been my kitchen.
Hey, SonicBlu here, but we have a full kitchen tonight. We got everybody in here, well, including our roommate Kai, who has just made some chicken, noodle, and red sauce. This is Dylan back here. He just made up some of his rice.
And chicken.
It's my specialty.
It's a specialty. So anyway, let's get to know a little bit about what we're doing tonight. Well, Kai did the chicken and noodles. I'm going to be doing the ribs, which is going to take 2 more hours to cook. So we're going to have some chicken and noodles first. But first, before we have some, we're going to ask Kai, what did you do with the chicken?
Let's see, I took the chicken and I just took a bunch of chicken breast and I put it on the oven to bake, 400 degrees, and I left them in there for maybe an hour and 15 minutes. I tested them, I got them to a little bit more than I wanted them cooked. A little hot, almost 200 degrees. We were shooting for at least 160, but they still seem to be juicy inside. So this one's good. Registering 145 now, but they've cooled down a little bit. Up 163, might go up a little bit. So they're still hot, but they're still juicy inside. And to be honest, I don't even know how I did that. It just was a miracle, because usually they get very dry and crispy inside.
That's right.
But we did that, and then I just cooked some noodles. We have to coat over there. Is already eating a plate of it, and he seems to like it. We got this going on, so I'm going to cut up these little chickens here, let him get onto the ribs, and make a few plates for us to share. So
that looks awesome.
Oh, there's some baked potatoes in here.
Oh, that's right. We got a whole bunch of potatoes right here. We got them in a bag here. We're going to be making some homemade shepherd pie soon. I'll probably do that tomorrow because we got so much going on right now that these potatoes, a good portion of them are going to be boiled tomorrow. We're going to be making homemade shepherd's pie, just like you see me do in the Battle Cook-Off Royale thing that we had years ago. I'll probably be making it that way, except for instead of ground lamb, we got ground beef, and I'm thinking about adding cheese to the potatoes, so it gives it a little more flavor. Now, you're probably wondering what I'm going to be doing to these ribs. Well, you know, it's easy to make beef ribs. All you got to do is just throw in the oven, bake it, and then barbecue it with sauce. Well, it's a little bit more in-depth than that. First, I like to season it with a little salt and pepper. I would use my traditional handy-dandy seasoning, but I forgot to pick up a shaker while I was at Wal Mart today, and among other things, like tin foil, or aluminium foil, as we call it around here. But we thank Dylan for picking up a roll of it tonight, because without him, we would not be doing this dish. And so a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, to your liking, you know, a little bit here and there. And since we only have just the one baking sheet, I'm just going to throw both racks of ribs on the one baking sheet to see how well they come out. We're also going to be baking these for about 2 hours to make sure that the meat is just falling right off the bone there, just the way we like beef ribs to be. And a little bit of salt, make a little love, get down tonight. Get down tonight. Okay, so we got them salted and peppered. Now let's pile them both on top of each other, kind of a little bit of one on one side, one on the other side, and we'll sauce it later when we reach closer to that 2 hour mark. So about an hour and 45 minutes in, we're going to uncover this, sauce it, put it back in uncovered, and cook the rest of that 2 hours out. That's about 15 minutes. So what we're going to do is let's grab the aluminium foil, and we are going to cover up these ribs. And since the oven's still at 400 degrees Fahrenheit and it's already been preheated, we are going to just toss them in the oven. But normally you would want to preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit to cook these beautiful beef ribs. And we're going to cover them as best as we can. Whoa! And there we go. You can leave a little bit of an opening for a steam effect, but if you cover it completely, they'll cook a lot more effective that way. I might need to add a little bit more Reynolds wrap on the side there because it's not quite there yet. So we'll just add some on this side here, make sure it's completely covered. And bring this down a little bit here and around the edge. And fold it under, make sure it stays down. And we are just going to completely cover this up so that none of that steam escapes. And it's going to be a lot more moist, a lot more tender and juicy that way. And we'll just see how well it turns out. What do you say about that, huh? Let's go ahead and pop this in, let it cook for 2 hours. Okay, so we got that cooking in. We're going to be checking it in 2 hours. So it is 9:48 now. We're going to be checking this at about 11 o'clock, close to 11 o'clock, but a little bit before that we're going to pull it out and sauce it and then just put it back in and braise it for that last 15 minutes. So, putting the scissors away now, and what do you say we pull up a plate, and is this anybody's?
Yeah, you guys
Is it
can have that
yours?
one. You could just put some chicken on it. And
Oh, okay.
I'll make another one.
Alrighty, so let's try a sample of Kai's chicken and noodles. And this is just a regular red spaghetti sauce. And, oh, there's already some cut up.
Oops, gotta turn that alarm off. That was for the baked potatoes.
Oh,
And one more time.
I was wondering what that noise was.
That's his iPhone going off.
I just put some cut chicken right on top of that. And voila. And if you really want to, for a little extra flavor, grab just a little bit of Parmesan cheese
Yeah, I was looking for that.
and have it go right on the top there like that. Mama Francesca, or Francesca.
The best fake Parmesan cheese you can get.
Is it really? Let's see. Grab this fork.
That's a spoon.
There's the fork. Grab a fork and sample this chicken and noodle and spaghetti sauce. Little noodle on there. Come on, noodles. Chicken breast is nice, tender, and juicy. Delicious. Well, it's very hard to talk and chew at the same time. And the Parmesan cheese just makes it add extra flavors and more Italian. That is quite good. And with the ribs to help accent the finale of the meal, the grand finale of the meal, will be even better. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I love me some really good beef ribs, especially when they're falling off the bone, and that's why we cover them up and cook them for 2 hours. Let me show you the sauce we're going to be using on top of those ribs. We're going to be using a combination of Hawaiian and Kansas City barbecue sauces. So you get the smoky and savory, you also get the sweet that you get from the Hawaiian. So both of them combined together will make an excellent sauce for our ribs. And that shepherd's pie recipe will be tomorrow. And this time I will actually do a cooking episode on that shepherd's pie instead of a battle royale thing. Yeah, that's a good combination. Usually I enjoy a nice Alfredo sauce with these, but with the red sauce, it actually tastes pretty darn good. I'm very, very surprised. Oh, you're starting to bubble.
Oh, thank you. Turn that down a little bit. I just needed to get hot first.
Oh yeah. I'll turn it down to a medium low there. Keep your eye on that. Anytime you cook sauce, you want to keep your eye on it, make sure it doesn't bubble over, because when it starts bubbling, that's when it's going to shoot all over the kitchen and turn your stovetop into a bloody mess. So, while we're waiting on the ribs, and before we cut you off and go to a little fast forward on this, let's come over here and see. Let's see. Can I prepare a noodle and sauce for you? So you just get out your egg noodle that you just boil up in water, and you let it sit out to cool just a little bit, and add some butter to prevent the noodles from sticking. And then you just add your spaghetti sauce there, or any sauce you wish. You can use marinara. And then you just use the chicken breast, which looks like it's been seasoned with pepper.
I seasoned it with pepper and garlic salt.
Very nice.
Just give it a little bit of garlicky flavor. And I know I just grabbed it with my hands, but it's mine, so. That's good. Well, I know some of what you did.
Yep. Oh, the Parmesan cheese, which is always a good touch.
Should have washed my hands. Don't take tips from me, kids.
Do as I say, not as I do. There you have it. Very simple recipe to make, and you can just really surprise yourself with the recipes you can come up with in your own household. You know, and if you got a bunch of the ingredients that you don't have any ideas for, throw them all together, see what you come up with. And you know, that's how, you know, you're able to discover, hey, this actually goes good together. Who would have thought, you know? So never be afraid to experiment in the kitchen, because they always say cooking is an art, and there's no telling what you can come up with if you're using creativity and your imagination as your canvas, and your plate will be your finished results. So, tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to enjoy the rest of this. Now I'll throw together a plate for Wolf Dog, our cameraman. And then we're going to fast forward about an hour and 45 into the ribs being cooked. And I'll meet you back here in the same locality, and we'll check up on our ribs and see how well we're doing. This is going to be a real good meal. Well, it's about that time. The ribs should be getting done, and I just can't wait to see how we're coming along. So I'm going to need an oven mitt and a pot holder. Well, it would be 2 oven mitts, but only 1 oven mitt, 1 pot holder came with the set. So it'll work just as good anyway. So let's pull out the ribs and check those results. Oh boy.
Oh, geez, look at that bubble.
Listen to that sizzle. Ooh. Bubble, bubble, oil and trouble. What kind of ribs are we going to get on the double?
Oh, crap.
Ooh. They smell good so far. Look at that. Those are just going to fall right off the bone. You see that? So let's go ahead and leave the bones in. Because with this type of rack, the meat is going to cling to that bone quite a bit. I mean, usually it falls right off, but yeah, we're going to leave the bone in for this particular meat. Now, some meats, it'll fall right off the bone. You can pull the bone right out and it'll just slip through. Now, it all depends on the type of meat that you have. It also depends on how tightly it clings to the bone, because even if you cook it for 2 hours, it's still going to hang onto the bone really good. So what do you say we get to our next task? Okay, so we're going to take our brush, and let's start off with the Hawaiian sweet first. And what we're going to do, crack this open. Now what we're just going to do is use the squirt bottle to squirt right over the top of those ribs. Use the brush to brush them into place and spread it around a bit. And we're going to use a lot of sauce. First, we're going to give it that sweet undertone. And then once you got that squirted over really good, and even on the bone itself too, get it all over. You want to slather that with the sauce until it's all nice and covered. So just spread it around, spread it down, spread it this way, spread it that way, every which way you can. Get into every nook and cranny. You are going to love this recipe. A little bit more on that side. Good. All right. Okay. Then, carefully with your one rack of ribs. Usually if you're doing this at home, you'll only have the one rack. Or if you have two racks, you'll have two sheets. But we're kind of lacking in that department right here. So we're just going to lift that up and allow the one underneath to get equal saucing. And look, the one underneath is really, really juicy. This is looking good. This looks good. This smells good. This is going to be all around delicious. Okay, now we got the tops of those sauced. Now we're going to get the underneath.
Literally grab it and you see how it goes.
Okay, so let's do the underneath of those. Get it all nice and covered with that sauce. And we're going to try to leave some for the bottom rib as well, the bottom rack. But we may not be that lucky. We'll see. Just have to use this rest of this sparingly on those other ribs. Use the brush to spread it as far and wide as you possibly can, using whatever sauce you have at your disposal. And if you happen to run out, there's always that other bottle over there. It's good for that. Back. And carefully. Ooh. It's going to be mighty hot, so I'm going to put you over here. And then I'm going to take and put you on the top. Slide you over. Oh, I'm breathing in those fumes of the barbecue sauce, and let me tell you, it's good stuff.
Let's get the now Kansas City sauce over the top of the Hawaiian sweet. This will help cover up any place that needs saucing, since everything is already sauced. It won't take that much to... And with this, we're just going to lightly tap the brush over the sauce to spread it. We're not going to really use the stroking motion with the brush. We're just going to tap it. And that will gently coat it with the sauce. So that way, since it's already got sauce underneath of it, we're just going to tap it. And that will just help dab the sauce around. And leave it nice, good, and saucy, and that the sauce that we use isn't going to run straight away down to the bottom of our pan. Okay, now we got that good. Let's do the undersides of those. Now the ribs have had a little bit of time to cool, so we're just gonna tap that down just like we did before on the other side. You getting this?
Yep.
Okay. Look how tapping the brush just kind of coats the sauce.
Just sit here and wait to die.
And kind of like, doesn't really, I mean, in the thicker parts, yeah, you definitely need to brush a little bit out of the way, but like that. But for the most part, you just tap it, and it'll do a good job of covering those ribs with that sauce. Okay, got that part done with this particular rack, so let's put this back. Oh, ooh, slippery. Back over here we go. And then while we do that, we'll grab this rack, and let this rack kind of fall back to where it was. And since we've already done those ribs, my fingers are going to be a mess. Do the same thing with these ribs, top to bottom, upside, downside, and any other side you can find. We're going to cover these with the sauce, and that way when we braise it, that sauce will just crisp right along with the beef, and it will taste just as good as it was grilled. But it wasn't grilled, it was baked in our oven. So do the same thing, tap it around. If there's any place that is untouched by the sauce, give it a little bit more generous portion. But we want this whole thing covered with the barbecue sauce. We want to make sure to taste every single morsel covered in the sauce.
Literally half the time I get that stupid block.
And then over here underneath the bone where it started coming up. Good, perfect. That's perfectly covered. You got the Kansas City smoked. You got the Hawaiian sweet underneath. It's going to be sweet and smoky. It's going to be a very unique flavor, but very saucy. And then continue on with the undersides of the ribs. It's very important to do the undersides as well as, of course, the sides of the ribs as well. Like so. Make sure to get it all nice and coated in that sauce, just all over. There we go. So here we are, just about ready to put them into the oven to braise. So we first cooked it covered for about an hour 45, took it out, and then we're going to cook it uncovered or braised for the rest of those 15 minutes. We're going to heat it back up. We're going to let it crispen up a bit. Back to its original position it goes. Now let me wash off my fingers. Okay. Now back into the oven it goes. So remember, cook this uncovered for 15 minutes. Put that in there. 15 minutes is all it takes to cook the rest of the way in at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. You want to keep the temperature at 400 at all times. So, in about 15 more minutes, which is about, well, we'll make it 12:15. And those ribs are going to be good enough to eat. So, join us in 15 minutes. We'll check on the ribs. We'll serve them up, plate them, taste test, and we'll send you on your way to make your own barbecued ribs. It's time. So let's check out our results. Now we're talking barbecued ribs. Look at that. Ooh. Now the house is filled with this aroma of barbecue sauce and ribs. All right. Now that our ribs are done, let's turn off our oven before we forget. That's nice and bubbly. Look at the bubbling around the juices right there. Just bubbling like crazy there. Ooh, it looks so good. Okay, let's get some plates. I want to taste this puppy. Wow, this is cutting right through like butter.
She was a legendary troll.
Okay, so let's...
I killed a lot of legendaries, but that one in particular just...
Pop that right over onto the plate. Okay, we got a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's see. One more piece will be for Kai because he'll want to sample one, I'm sure. Look at that. Oh, this is going to be some good stuff. It's a good thing we're making just ribs because there's not going to be any more room on this plate for side dishes.
Nope.
Those are some big ribs. I definitely want to allow some time for your ribs to cool a little bit because those bones are going to be piping hot. And to pick those up and try to eat your ribs when you're being served, you know, you just want to kind of eat into it right away, but not if your bones are too hot to handle. So you definitely want to allow about 5 minutes to 10 minutes for them to cool off a bit, but the meat will still be nice and warm and delicious through and through. So in that time, let's go ahead and do a little cleanup here and get this off of there. So now that the ribs had a time to cool, you say we grab them up, do a taste test of these. So I want to see how well these came out. I want to do an ultimate taste test of these ribs. Between the bone. Find where that bone ends. There it goes. Okay, let's try one of these. Oh, that's super. Mm. Oh, I can eat that all day. But that about sums up how I make barbecue beef ribs. So to recap, we preheated our oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, covered everything up, seasoned it with salt and pepper, then covered it up real tight, let it cook for 2 hours, or actually an hour and 45 minutes. We pulled it out, and that's when we put the sauce on. Then we left them uncovered, put them back into the oven for another 15 minutes, took them out, they are ready to eat, and they come out with a perfect flavor every time. There is no possible way you can mess up a good rack of ribs if you do it correctly. So you do it the way we did it here, your ribs will come out, especially beef ribs, will come out perfect every time. Now, do keep in mind, beef ribs and pork ribs are 2 different things, 2 different meats. Beef ribs take 2 hours to cook. Pork ribs, on the other hand, will take about an hour. So don't think that because you got pork ribs, you have to cook them for 2 hours, because that's too long. You're not gonna have any meat left if you cook them for 2 hours. So always make sure you have the right time for the right style of ribs that you have. Otherwise, you'll mess up your recipe real easily. And that's no place for any delicious ribs.
I think I read those out like the grows on these kind of mats. It's just the easiest way.
So, I'm gonna take this plate of ribs. I'm gonna eat every single one of these. Not every single one of them, but a good portion of them. And I'm gonna leave it up to you to make your own delicious barbecue beef ribs. So stay tuned on the next episode of Cooking with SonicBlu. You never know what we're gonna be making, but I'm pretty sure you're gonna like it. So just remember, if you're not cooking good, you're not eating good. You always gotta have the right ingredients, the right recipe, and the right cooking time to be eating good, especially this good. Oh, that's heaven.
It's after I hit record, I think I might have just got half of that.
At least the echo of it.
That too, yeah. Okay, that was funny. Okay.
So let's put this in the oven. Where did that come from? Anyhow. That is good.
We're gonna have to pause for a second.
Okay.
Battery.
Oh, instructions. 1, shake vigorously. Oh, the bottle. Silly me.
Really? You actually thought it was... It wasn't called shake your whole body. Sheesh.
It just said shake vigorously, so I did it. But at any rate.
That was lame.
Boy, I love my ribs.
That's pretty funny, like early on, it's just like, bye, bye.